Good afternoon to you all, lovely people. How are you doing? Happy Friday. Greetings from Dubai. End of another week. How are you doing? Lovely to see you all. Some people just joining us now. Thank you for joining. How are you? Give me a wave. Give me a hello. Let me know where you're joining from. Hope you've had a good week. Let me know how you're doing. A few more people coming in. Hello, hello. Happy Friday to you. How are you doing? Greetings from Dubai. Let me know where you are watching from. Give me a thumbs up or give me a bit of a wave. Hello, hello. February already, doesn't time fly? How was your January and how's your week been? Do let me know. Let me know where you are. How is your family? How's your business? How's your team? Give me a bit of a wave or a thumbs up. Nice to see you joining. Lovely to see you. How has this week been for you then? If you're watching in the UK, I know still a lockdown and many of you juggling kind of homeschooling, running a business, family, goodness knows what else, and it's tough, right? Tough times. So how are things where you are? What have you been working on this week? Has it been a good one? Do you know what? I've had quite a tough week, I'm not gonna lie. You know when you're pushing and you're really trying to get something over the line, and you know your will is really in it, and you're pushing hard, and you've got that little voice in your head going, you're going to have to pay for this at some time. You know you're going to have to pay the price. So this week we're into our new home, and we're delighted to be here. But this week I'm feeling pretty tired, as I say, I'm not going to lie. This week I've really been focusing then on looking after myself and just kind of recovering from the stress of moving and everything that's been going on in the last couple of months. It's really wonderful to get settled here. It's really starting to feel like home. So yeah, let me know where you are. It's beautiful here in Dubai. How is it in the UK? How is it? I can see we've got some people joining from around the world. So let me know how things are where you are. How's business been this week? Has it been a good one? On the business front, from my perspective, it's been a busy week. It's been another busy week. I've had several great referrals. A lot of people are reaching out or being referred. A lot of people are putting in place some support structures for this year ahead, asking for help, asking for support, which is really great. So yeah, I've had some good referrals. A copywriter who's looking to explore what's next for her in her business. We're going to start work next week. I was also referred to a wife who is a coach herself, but is actually looking for someone to support her husband. He runs a fintech company that's growing really rapidly, and he's looking for some guidance on leadership and management. So I'm gonna speak to him next week. I've also started work with a new lady who's struggling to manage some conflict in her role, and she's looking to put in some stronger boundaries. So yeah, really interesting new clients, and also working with my existing clients as well, which I so enjoy. I hope that business is good for you, wherever you are, wherever in the world you are. I also held a people management workshop this week where we looked at the rhythm of the business, so all those internal meetings that you hold, and we talked about which meetings you need to hold as your business grows and how to make them effective, rather than how so many meetings end up, too many status updates, too many people, too long, too much chat and not enough decisions. So that was a really great workshop that I really enjoyed. So that's what I've been up to. What about you? Hi Junior, hi Nancy. Nice to see you both. What's going on with you? It looks like it's a busy time for everybody. I hope that you and your business are thriving wherever you are in the world. I can see we've got some people joining from overseas as well, so let me know how you're doing. And if you're not thriving or your business is not thriving, then let me know what support you need. You are absolutely not alone in this journey. Last week we were looking at client strategies, And we looked at both existing and new clients. We were also talking about how to get your very first client if you're just starting out. And you can find a recording of that live in the units in this group. There are 4 units in this group. The first one is a welcome unit with some information about me and about the group. And then we have 3 units that are filled with resources and all the lives that I've done dating all the way back to when we started this community back in June 2019. So firstly, we've got Simplify Your Business with loads of hints and tips on how to make life easier for yourself, how to organise your time and how to focus on what's important. Then we've got Grow Your Business, which is all about client acquisition, scaling and managing people. And finally, there's the Enjoy Your Business unit, which is very important, focusing on you and your role and how to ensure that the business that you're building continues to delight and inspire you. What we really don't want is you falling out of love with your business, right? So enjoying your business is really very important. So everything that I do falls into one of those 3 units: simplify, grow and enjoy, so that you can easily find the support that you need. And of course I want all 3 of those for you, but you will know which one of those is needed for you right now. So I hope you find lots of useful stuff in there. There are resources, there are lives, there are downloadable documents, templates, etc. So if there's anything that you're looking for that you don't find in terms of building a business that works for you, do let me know, and I will record a live or I'll put some resources in there for you. So as you know, I tend to take my cues from you as in terms of what would be most helpful for me to cover during these lives. Sometimes maybe I read about something or I reflect on a past experience and I take my learnings from that to share with you. Often I share things from my book or the work that I'm doing with my various clients. But most often these lives come from conversations, questions and requests that I get from this community. So do let me know, where are you stuck? What questions do you have? What challenges are you facing? What's that next step that you're trying to take and how can I help? During January's lives, I was mainly focused on helping you get clear about what you want your business to be, what you want your life to be, what you really want. But now as we move into February, it's all about how do we start, how do we implement, how do we put those foundations in place. And this week's live is definitely coming from the work that I've been doing for me this week after so much upheaval over the last couple of months with the move and all the stress of that. I've been really focused on putting back my foundations and making sure that my systems and the people that I work with are working really well together. And so today we're talking about routines and standards. And even if you've heard me talking about this before, it's well worth a reminder, particularly at this time of year, just to make sure that we're refreshing those foundational things that you need in your life to make you successful. So we're going to talk about what they are, why they're important, and how you really implement them. This week, I've really been reflecting on the pace of life. Many of you are juggling, family with business, homeschooling with caring or with volunteering, and life just keeps getting busier. I don't know about you, but it just seems to be that life keeps getting busier and everybody is busy, busy, busy. But if we're really honest with ourselves, is busy actually a chore, or is it more a badge of honour? Do you know what I mean? Most people identify being busy with being successful. But the truth is that being busy is not really living, it's more existing. And maybe that sounds very harsh, but busy people often use their busyness as an excuse not to attend to the people or the things that they actually care about. And I want to ask you, is that your definition of success? Because it's not mine. As a business owner, your job is to look ahead. It's to see what's happening around you and also what's on the horizon. How can you do that if you're really, really busy all the time? And that's really the point. And also, how do you define your own value? Many of us do so by how busy we are, almost as if it's a kind of a protective blanket or a shield to defend ourselves with. I've definitely been guilty of that in the past, and it's something that I continue to work with my coach. And so the question really is, what would happen if we slow down? What are we afraid of if we slow down, if we're not so busy anymore? What's the fear there? What would really happen? I ask myself that question from time to time. Many people see self-care, looking after ourselves, as selfish. People are sick and many people are dying around the world, and here am I talking about taking care of ourselves and taking care of myself. But do you know what? On the aeroplane, before you take off, they tell you to attend to your own mask before helping other people. You cannot look after your business, your team, your customers, your family, your community without looking after yourself. If you do continue to put other people's needs ahead of yours, then there will be a price to pay. There always is. And so let's slow down today. Let's reflect. Let's take some time to look after ourselves. Much has been busy, much has been written in all of this busyness about the importance of routine. But how do we build routines that stick when we are all so busy? How do we really make them work for us? How do we prioritise all the things that we should put into our days? And also, very importantly, how do we avoid that overwhelm that seems to go hand in hand for so many of you building your business, and certainly did with me in those first few years? So the first step is really to understand yourself. Let's put all of those shoulds aside. I'm sharing with you from my experience, both personally in the work and also in the work that I do. But what's important to you? What's really going to work for you? That is so important to ask yourself that. I used to be a night owl, but as I've got older, I've definitely become more of a morning person. I feel fresh and bright and ready to face the world in the mornings when some of you are groggy and just waking up. But I tend to turn into a bit of a pumpkin in the early evening. My brain kind of stops working, and I know that, and I try to plan my days accordingly, and I do plan my days accordingly. So forget for a moment what everybody else does. What is going to work for you? If we start off by looking at routines, and I want to ask you a very important question. What are your non-negotiables? What are those things that you need in your life, that you're prepared to commit to being in your life, to being in your daily routine, regardless of where you are and what you're doing? These non-negotiables might be around physical exercise, for example, or they might be around what food you eat. It might be a daily yoga or meditation practice. It might be a weekly call with a member of your family, or maybe a weekly date night with your partner. I would advise you not to have too many of these non-negotiables. We don't want them to get overwhelming, but make sure that you really define what they are and make a strong commitment to yourself about having them in your life. I've spoken before about having a 1 hour slot in my calendar every single day for physical exercise. It's one of my non-negotiables, and it's really important to my mental as well as physical well-being. It's a recurring calendar entry that I then can move around as I plan my day. I have it in at 6 o'clock every morning, and I certainly don't do my physical exercise at 6 o'clock every morning. I move it around as I look at my calendar and as I plan my day. Also, my husband and I have a regular Saturday morning meeting. I know that sounds a bit strange, but it works for us. We review our week. We review the businesses that we run together. We catch up on what we're doing. We look at our finances, and we also do something that we call couples gratitude. So we decide together 5 good things that have happened in the week before, and also 5 things that we're grateful for. I'm using these as examples things that work for me, things that I have in my routine, things that I have as my non-negotiables. But it's important that whatever you choose works for you. And I know I'm repeating that, but it is really important. And it also has to be meaningful, and it has to have a clearly defined benefit to you, so that you can remind yourself of why you're doing that and why you have that in your life. If, or probably more likely when, you start falling off the wagon. And the point is that we all fall off the wagon from time to time, right? I know this stuff, I teach this stuff, and yet the last couple of months, some of these things have slipped a bit for me. You know, I'm being honest with you about that. And that's why this week has really been, I've really been focused on putting those routines and those non-negotiables back in place for myself. And that's why I wanted to share with you and just remind you, if maybe you've fallen off the wagon, don't be too hard on yourself. You know, life happens, stuff happens, but it's just important to bring ourselves back to, I call these the foundations. They're really the fundamentals. It all really starts with looking after you. Guilt doesn't work too well as a strategy in my experience. It's much better that you have a positive reason for each of these non-negotiables, each of these things that you have in your routines. Routines are really important because they remove the need to make too many decisions every day. And I've spoken in other lives about decision fatigue. As business owners, there are so many things that we have to decide on all the time, and it gets really, really tiring. And that's why we kind of run out of willpower, some of us, in the evening, because we've kind of run out of that decision-making ability. So as much as possible, you want to take away those decisions, or to put another way, you want to save that energy that comes from making decisions, or that you want to put into making decisions. You want to save that for the really important decisions. So routines are important because they remove that decision. It's just something you do. You've already made the decision. We build habits quickly. Some research says 14 days, some research says 21 days, but within a few weeks we build up a habit pretty quickly. And also our brains like routines. They feel safe and they feel reliable. If you're, a word of warning, if you're the sort of person that gets bored easily, you might need to mix it up a little bit so that you don't get bored. You know, so if we're talking about exercise, you'll need to mix that up a little bit, or just mix up the things that you have there, but make sure you're clear about your non-negotiables. And also bear in mind that consistency is absolutely the key to success. And I've said that very, very often. Consistency will beat luck, will beat brilliance, will beat shiny 9+ times out of 10. Consistency is the key to success. So, what do you want your mornings to look like? What time do you want to get up, for example? How much sleep do you need? And therefore, what time do you need to go to bed? And I know that this sounds simple, but we all need a reminder from time to time, right? These simple questions. What time do you want to get up? And therefore, what time do you need to go to bed? What about the end of the day? With so many of us working from home, there's a danger that work and home lives just kind of blend together, and I've been working with a number of my clients on that. Like, how do you set those boundaries? How do you put those boundaries in place when you're working from home? It's not healthy when everything just blends together. So what time do you want to finish working each day? Decide that at the start of each day. Commit that to the people that you live with, if you live with anybody, and stick to it, or commit it to yourself at least and stick to it. So what time do I want to finish working today? And what about the evening? How do you want to spend your evening? And what about getting ready for sleep? A lot has been written about morning routines and the power of morning routines in terms of meditation, in terms of exercise, in terms of writing, in terms of creativity. But what about that? What about an evening routine? What about that preparing for bed, that preparing for sleep routine? What do you want your nighttime routine to look like? Do you struggle to go to sleep? Do you wake up in the middle of the night with your mind racing? What do you want that to look like? The key here to everything that I'm saying here in terms of routines and so many other things that I speak about, to be honest, is about being intentional, yeah? So the reason that we fall off the wagon is that we lose that connection to our intentions. So there is no magic bullet. In fact, there's no magic bullet in most of what I talk about. And I'm sorry about that. I know we're all, chasing those magic bullets, but there really isn't a magic bullet here. It is all about making a decision and then sticking to it. And actually, people worry a lot about implementation. They stress a lot about how to do things. And do you know what? In my experience, implementation isn't usually the hardest bit. And if you're struggling with that, then you've got a great implementer as a business coach, and you've got this community full of great resources to help you. The key and the critical thing is making the decision. Nobody else can do that except for you. So make the decision around your routines and then stick to them. And if you fall off the wagon, don't give yourself a hard time. Brush yourself up, get yourself up, brush yourself off, and go again. But ask yourself, why did that happen? What can I learn from that? What can I do to support myself not falling off the wagon again? You can check out my other lives on resilience, and there was also one when we began lockdown. Goodness me, do you remember that? It's almost a year ago. Last March I did a live on practical tips on staying healthy and safe. So by all means, check that one out as well. In terms of business, so I've been focusing there, I guess, on more personal, physical and mental and emotional resilience and health, if you like. And that really is the foundation, and it always has to start with that. These things are often intertwined. I'm looking at you as the business owner. But if we think about business, as I've often said, it's very much a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we need to pace ourselves. So please pace yourself. Being organised is absolutely key. Either at the end of each day or the start of the new one, you really do need a routine to get yourself organised. What are the top 3 things that you want to achieve that day? What does your calendar look like? There will always be a lot to do, but what are your priorities? I know that it's a real struggle to keep on top of everything, and you need some sort of system, some sort of way of keeping organised. And I just want to quickly share with you my method for keeping organised, and the one that I use with many of my clients. But first, before I do that, I just need to explain something quickly to you about open loops. So you might have heard this concept. An open loop is is an open loop in your brain. It's like an open thing in your brain, and it comes from every time you think about maybe doing something, every time you think about every time somebody suggests a book to you, an article to you, every time you think, oh, I must change that light bulb, or I must pop to the shops and get that. Your brain opens a loop, yeah? And the really interesting thing about our brains is that they're really binary in this way. So your brain actually can't tell the difference between, oh yeah, I need to change that light bulb, not very important, one day, and oh my God, I really must phone this person this afternoon. To your brain, those two things look exactly the same, and all of those things open loops in your brain. And the really interesting thing also about our brains is that they can only really hold one thought at any one time. Amazing, right? They're amazing organisms, but they can only hold one thought at any one time. And so every time you open those loops in your brain, you're actually stressing your brain, because your brain is going, don't forget that light bulb, don't forget that light bulb, or don't forget that phone call that you need to make, yeah? And this is why we get stressed, and this is why we get this feeling of overwhelm and burnout, because it's not so much actually from having too much to do, it's more about having too many open things in our brain that our brain keeps reminding us of, because our brain wants to keep us safe. So our brain wants to keep reminding us of those things, because it can't tell the difference between something that's not really very important, that article that somebody sent that you might want to read one day, versus something that's really mission critical and you need to phone that person today. Your brain can't tell the difference between those two things, so it thinks everything's urgent, and it's trying to help you, it's trying to keep you safe, and so it's opening all these loops every time you think about maybe, possibly, one day, possibly, maybe doing anything. That is an open loop in your brain. Okay, so here's the thing, here's the magic thing here. In order to close a loop in your brain, you don't have to complete the action. You don't have to do those things. You don't have to tick them off your to-do list, right? In order to close the loop in your brain, you need to convince your brain, you need to say, I've got that, brain. It's all right, I've got it. So you need to have some kind of system for constantly reassuring your brain that you've got it. Yeah, I've got it. I've got that article that I might one day read. I've got the fact that I need to phone that person. I've got it, right? Not in your memory, because that's also part of your brain. Your brain has to trust that you have a system that is trustworthy. Otherwise, it will keep on trying to remember everything, trying to remind you of everything, and that is very stressful and that is very tiring. Okay, so I have a formula for keeping organised. I like to keep things simple, you know me. This is what I use and this is what I use with my clients. We're all very, very different. I'm very conscious of that. So this is specifically designed to be very flexible and it can adapt to suit your needs. If you are a complete geek and like to keep track of everything, like me, it will work for you. If you are very creative and have lots of ideas and aren't particularly organised and have lots and lots and lots going on, it will work for you also. It does require you to have a system and it does require you to be a bit organised, but I promise you it will work for you. Let's give it a go. It's called the focus formula and it has 5 steps, FOCUS. You'll probably find that you're doing each of these things, kind of, some of them better than others, but in order to keep your head clear, you need to do each of these 5 consistently, so that you can keep your head clear and you can reassure your brain that you're doing okay and that you're on it. So, first of all, the F is for fetch, and by that I mean capture everything. Every single one of those thoughts that comes into your head that you might possibly one day, someday, maybe do. Even if you think, I'm probably never ever going to do that. If there's even a possibility that your brain is somehow aware that you're hanging on to, you need to fetch that, yeah? You need to capture that. So the first thing is that you need to have a way of capturing that. Now, I really don't care whether that's a notebook, whether that's a scraps of paper, post-it notes, whether that is some kind of organisational system like Asana or Trello. I use Trello, Monday. There are plenty of these sort of task management systems, whether it's a spreadsheet, as I say, whether it's a notebook or a series of notebooks. That is not important. What is important is that you have a way to capture things. So, for example, you might use the Notes app on your phone. So before I started using Trello, I used to use the Notes app on my phone so that wherever I was, if something popped into my head, even if I woke up in the night, you know that feeling where you wake up in the middle of the night and your brain is racing, the best thing is to get those things out of your head as quickly as you can. So have a notebook by your bed or your phone. I hope you've got it on flight mode. Take it off flight mode, write those things down, put it back on flight mode. So the other thing about your brain is that it's got no sense of time. So something that you captured 6 months ago is just as important as something that you're thinking about today. So again, we need to capture all of these things. So that's the F. The O is options, and this is a really, if you want to implement just one thing from today, this is the one. This is gold, right? What you do is, as you capture it, you take a couple of seconds, a few seconds, maybe a minute, to think about what the action is. Yeah. Don't just write down Sarah. Write down, call Sarah, email Sarah, send that thing to Sarah. I know that you know it, and when you see Sarah, you figure it out, but that's the point. Your brain, for a split second, you're probably not even conscious of it. When you see Sarah on your list, your brain has to go, Sarah, which Sarah? Oh yeah, okay, yes, I need to email her. Yeah, so don't do that, it's tiring, yeah? Email Sarah about this. Yeah, take Sarah to, as much information, just make the decision, because what happens otherwise is you'll put something on your list like premium bonds, and you put premium bonds on there because you have to figure out what you want to do with those premium bonds, and you haven't quite figured it out, right? So you put that on your list, and every time you look at it, your brain goes, I can't quite decide. Whereas if you decide that the first step with the premium bonds is that you need to do some research, write that down. Research about premium bonds. Then your brain, when it sees that, it's like, oh, okay, fine. And then when you're in research mode, when you're in the mood for doing some research tasks, then you just pick that one up. You've made the decision about what you want to do, yeah? So this options is really the next action, yeah? So which option are you picking? Decide that not when you come to do the thing, but when you put it on your list. Honestly, you don't have to believe me, just try it. Please try it. It works amazingly. Now, some of your options here, O is for options, is what I like to call the 3 Ds: do, ditch, or delegate. So if it's something that you can quickly do rather than putting on your list, just do it. If it's something that actually you don't have to put on your list, like really, are you ever actually going to read that book? Are you? If you are, brilliant, put it on there. But ditch some things like, do I really need to do that? Like take things off your list, or don't put them on your list is what I'm trying to say. Or delegate. Is it something that somebody else can do for you? Now that's a whole nother live about delegation. But as you are thinking about that next action, do, ditch, or delegate. Okay, so now we come on to the C, and the C is for categorize. And here what I'm talking about is buckets, organize themes, if you like. And what I would suggest you do, so this is where the creativity comes in. This is where you have to decide what is going to work for you, yeah? How do you organize your lists, yeah? How do you organize your to-do lists? That's really what we're talking about here, right? One of the suggestions that I have for you is that you organize by themes. So you put all the calls together, you put all the errands, you know, the things where you need to go out of the house. You know, when I go out of the house, can we even go out of the house? You know what I mean? You know, when you go to the supermarket, I also need to pick up that prescription, or I also need to do that. So organise them together by themes, like all the emails together, all the reading together, all the research together. And the reason for that is that your brain, you can put your brain, or you can put yourself into different spaces. So I spoke earlier on about, you know, whether you're a morning or an evening person. For me, if I have to do something really creative, it's much better in the morning, whereas other people are much better in the evening at doing that kind of thing. So if I have to write something or, you know, create something, I'm much better doing that in the morning. But the point is that you can put those things together. If you're in creative space, don't like be in creative space and then suddenly, you know, do a spreadsheet or something, unless that's part of the creative process. Group the things together, yeah, categorize them, bucket them together. It must be flexible. This must be flexible, yeah? And this is really, as I say, where the individuality comes in. I know what works for me, and I'd be very happy to discuss with you what might work for you, but it really does have to work for you. There's no point in you trying to follow the Lisa buckets, because they're not necessarily going to be the ones that are going to work for you. And also, as I say, that gives you, one of the reasons why many of us became business owners is because we like to manage our time, right? We like to have some degree of freedom and control over what we spend our time doing. So if you wake up in the morning and you feel like just getting a load of stuff done, you can get that bucket of the kind of quick emails, quick calls, you know, quick things that you can get done. Or if you wake up in the morning and you feel like doing something creative, then you can look at that bucket, yeah? So it's really important to think about kind of bucketing these things together, yeah? Does that make sense? So the other thing that I would say then is, so think about buckets, think about categories, think about themes, but also think about projects and bucket all of those things together. So you know that I have been talking about starting a podcast for quite a while now, and I am going to do it, but every time I have an idea or a thought about anything to do with my podcast, I've got a project in Trello called podcast. So all the podcast stuff can go in there. And I know then, plus my first action, I know what my first action is with regards to my podcast. And then when I'm ready, I can do that, and everything is bucketed together. So this is really important. The C for categorize, in terms of how you get your arms around all of this stuff. There are always so many things to do as business owners. And actually, this is not just about business, right? I mean, I have all the things I have to do in my life in Trello. I have personal categories, I have business categories. You know, this works across your life, and actually I would advise you to organize yourself across your life, so that you close all of the personal loops as well as the business loops. Again, your brain can't tell the difference. Okay, so we have done FUC, FOC, and now we're coming to U. So the U in focus is understand. And now this is the way that these systems always fall down, right? So what I've told you so far, like, you're like, yeah, Lisa, okay, I have to have a notebook, or I have to have a list, or I have to have Trello or Asana or whatever. Okay, fine. I have to capture everything. I have to organize everything. Fantastic. I've given you a bit of value there where I told you need to capture the next action. So you're probably going, yeah, okay, great. I'm good with that. But now this understand piece, this is where it falls down, because what is really important is that you review your system on a regular basis. So I will explain. For example, daily, you obviously need to pull out the things that you are going to do on a daily basis. I would suggest that you use your calendar only for the things that you have decided to do. Don't put things in your calendar that you might do. Put things in your calendar that you are going to do. So for example, at the end of my day, I like to look at my calendar and go, right, I've got this call, I've got this call, I've got this coaching session, I've got this, and then this time I'm going to do this, and then I put it in my calendar. But I don't put things in my calendar that I might possibly do. I put things in my calendar that I am going to do. So a top tip is, what are the top 3 things that you want to achieve in that day? That's a really good way of keeping you focused. Also, eating that frog. What's the one thing you really don't want to do but you really want to do? Get that one done first. Now, weekly. Very, very important, review your entire system. I don't mean every single task, but review the buckets, clear out the junk, clear out the things you're actually not going to do, clear out the things that you've done, but maybe you haven't kind of ticked off. Great dopamine hit, right? Tick them off your list, yeah? Clear it out. I like to do that on a Sunday afternoon or maybe a Monday morning, get a fresh start the week in a good way. Really, really important, and I will tell you why. Otherwise, do you know what? If that system starts getting full of things that you're not actually going to do, things that you've already done, it starts getting with things in the wrong categories, etc., etc., do you know what? Your brain will start noticing. Maybe it'll take a few days, maybe it'll take a few weeks, but your brain will start to notice. And do you know what? Then it will go, can't trust that anymore, sorry, can't trust that anymore. And then all those open loops will be open in your brain, and it will start reminding you about all of them, and your stress levels will rise, and we don't need to go, you know where that goes, right? So very, very important. Every week, an hour or two, you've got to go through your system. You've got to refresh it. You've got to make sure that you're on top of it and it's all nice and fresh for you to start a new week. Do you know what? I will give you an example of why this works, because you might be going, do you know what? I really can't be bothered with that. And I get it, I do. But why do we feel so great, so organised and so amazing just before we go on holiday? Do you know why? Because what we do before we go on holiday is we clear the decks. We do everything that we can do, and maybe we're stressed because we didn't get everything done that we want to get done. But when you get on that plane or you get in that car, it's done, right? You're out of time. And so then we've made a decision that we're not going to do that before holiday. And maybe there's stress associated with that, but you know what? At a certain point you let that go. It's on a list, ready for you when you come back from holiday. And you have that moment where you feel amazing because you've got nothing on your to-do list, right? So that is my proof to you that this works. that we have to clear and refresh on a regular basis so you can start Monday feeling like you do when you go on holiday. I know what I'm doing, except you're probably not lying on a beach on a Monday morning, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Very, very important. And then, of course, we get the payoff. So the S is succeed. And what I mean by that is doing the right action at the right time. And this is what this is all about, is if you can keep your head clear, the whole point and the reason we don't want to be stressed and the reason we don't want to have all these open loops and have everything clogging up our brain all the time is that when we make decisions, we want to make good decisions, right? Right. So keep our heads clear to make good decisions. So they are my 5 steps of my focus formula, and you must commit to all 5 of them in order to keep your head clear. Okay, you must fetch everything. You must not add anything to your list without considering your options and deciding on the next action. You must categorize into appropriate buckets so that your system remains flexible and continues to work for you. You must understand what you have using weekly and daily reviews, and this all leads to succeed, where you take actions and do the right things at the right time. Book a call in with me if you'd like to discuss this more. It's obviously one of my favourite topics, as you can hear. So now we have the routines in place, it's time to quickly talk about standards before I let you go. So instead of targets, a standard is what we aspire to meet. We don't beat ourselves up when we don't meet it, but the standard remains, yeah? So for example, you might have a standard that says, every week I contact 5 new people. Every weekday I post on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Every day I do 30 minutes of physical exercise. In our management meeting, we commit to realistic dates. I meet one member of my team once every 2 weeks, and so on. So what are the standards that you want to set yourself and your business? That is the question. What are those standards for you personally, in your health, in your mental, physical, emotional health, in your relationships, and in your business? Maybe in your spiritual life, in the community that you serve. You can have standards for all different kinds of, all the different areas of your life. What are those standards that you are prepared to commit to, that you want to set yourself and you want to hold yourself accountable to? I want to just end up with circling back to busyness, which, as I say, is something I've really been thinking a lot about this week. Many of the people that I meet feel guilty if they're not busy. And I can relate to that. I've done a lot of work on this, but I can still certainly relate to that feeling. And so today I thought that I would share some reasons with you, some reasons to slow down. Time moves really fast when you're busy. So slow down and you'll have more time. When you're busy, you're not really present. You're not really living in the moment because you're too busy. You're much more likely to take risks and spot new opportunities if you slow down. You really don't want to mistake activity for progress, and that's what we do when we're too busy. We have more time for ideas and creativity that have no space when we are filling our time with too many tasks. When you slow down, you make better decisions. Your real priorities become your real priorities when you have more time. Multitasking is just exhausting. It's a myth. I told you earlier, our brains can only hold one thought at any one time. Multitasking is really exhausting. Time to think, time to live, time to breathe. Boundaries, routines, and standards of self-care. They are some of my reasons to slow down, and I hope that they can become some of your reasons to slow down. This does get easier with practice, I promise you. Just make the decision to slow down a bit. Just take a few minutes to yourself to reflect. Be kind to yourself, and do get in contact if you'd like to discuss. So So those are my thoughts on routines and standards. Let me know your questions, your comments, your observations. What's your next step in life or in business? What do you need to make you feel more confident? Book in a clarity call with me and let's get you moving past whatever is blocking your progress and on to that next challenge. Before I close up for today, let me see. Oh, Roger's saying, I love the idea of couples gratitude. Make it visible. Yeah, absolutely work on the. Yeah, I mean, it's been a really important thing for us actually, working on couples gratitude. It's just a lovely thing, whatever you've got going on in the week. I do a lot of personal gratitude, but it's actually a really lovely. It's really a lovely thing to do together as a couple, is say, what are we grateful for? What good things have happened? So, okay. So, Richard, you are asking, let me see, how do you do these reviews? Because we could have a Zoom team meeting. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. We probably have to have a conversation about your individual situation, and it does depend on the scope of what you've got in your organisational system. But I guess my point is, high level at least, have a look at it. Are the buckets correct? You know, have a quick scan down. If you're talking about a busy team, you talked about potentially 100 people, you know, have a look at the busy categories, you know, what things need to be refreshed. It's about not letting it get stale. It's about keeping these things refreshed, because if you have lots of things in there where when you look at it your brain goes, nah, that's not relevant anymore, that's not current, your brain will stop trusting the system. And so that's my point, is that you need to kind of refresh your organisational system on a regular basis so that your brain continues to trust it. You're also asking, are clarity calls free? Absolutely. I offer each and every one of you a free clarity call. Let's get on the phone together. Let's get on a Zoom call. Let's figure out what that blocker is. You know, what that help is that you need to take that next step. Of course, we can discuss coaching if you're interested in ongoing support. But yeah, book yourself in a clarity call. If you look at the pinned post at the top of this group, there should be a link there to my calendar, or ping me offline if you can't see it, Richard. So before I close up today, I want to give you some next steps, some concrete things that I suggest that you do as a result of today's live. So number one, write down your non-negotiables, those things that you want in every single day or every single week, regardless of where you are or what's going on. Number two, map out what a good start to the day would look like, and also what a good end to the day would look like. Just spend a bit of time mapping that out. And finally, have a think about the standards that you'd like to set for yourself and for your business. If you have a team, absolutely discuss it with them, agree it with them. What do you want to commit to per day, per week, per month, individually, but also as a team, as a business also? So please let me know how you get on with those tasks. Take some time to really think about what's going to work for you. I'm going to close up today's live with two quotes, as I always do, today about routines and also about being busy. So the first quote is from David Allen, who is the author of a great book called Getting Things Done. And what he has to say is, much of the stress that people feel doesn't come from having too much to do. It comes from not finishing what they started. And that is absolutely the point that I was making earlier on. You know, slowing down and getting organised will help you close off some of those open loops in your brain. And my second quote from today is from John C. Maxwell. He's an American leadership author and speaker. You will never change your life until you change something that you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. So decide what's really important to you and how you want to spend your time. Decide that up front and then stick to it. Be intentional. Say no to the things that don't serve you and the goal that you want to achieve. And as I pass it back over to you, as I do every week, that is what I want you to take from today? What is the outcome that you're seeking? What's the result? What's the goal? Put your energy into getting really clear about that. But allow yourself to do things your way. Yes, by all means, learn from me, learn from others. But when you synthesize that learning, when you bring it inside of you, what comes out must be congruent with you, what works for you. If you want to build something, then go for it. But if you want to do your thing, then also that's absolutely fine. Focus in on listening to yourself and asking yourself what you need so that you can spend more time in your flow. And don't forget that the opposite of flow is friction. And so if things aren't really working, then take a step back and focus on getting some clarity. Maybe get some objective input, hire the services of a business coach, take some time to look at what you're doing, and also where would an easier path start from, and also where would it lead to. Ask yourself, what would a business that really works for me look like? Let me know your thoughts or your questions on this or any other topic relating to how to simplify, grow and enjoy your business. What area of business would you like me to speak about next? I'm so looking forward to this very special year ahead for you and for your business. I know there are many challenges out there, but there are also lots of opportunities. If you haven't claimed your free copy of my book, The Real Entrepreneur, then go to therealentrepreneur.book.com. If you prefer an Audible or Kindle version, then you can find those on Amazon. Check out chapter 1 of my book for more on building routines and setting yourself up for success. Get the foundations right, and then you can build from there. So I really hope that you have a lovely weekend, whatever you're doing and whoever you're doing it with. I really wish you a happy and a peaceful time. And as always, if you want to talk, then you know where I am. Please remember to be where you are in the journey. You don't need to know it all, and you definitely don't have to do it all. Take care, stay safe, and keep in touch. Bye for now.